Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Fanny, welcome to Lawyers Who Learn. Super excited to catch up with you. We went to law school together. And I don't know if besides LinkedIn and communicating on LinkedIn, have we actually had a conversation since law school?
I actually don't think so. We've exchanged some messages, comments, things like that, but I don't think we've spoken or seen each other really in the last 20 almost years.
By the way, what is because I feel like your original last name is very similar to your current last name. Isn't it Feldman or something like that?
It was Flickstein, and now it's Ferdman. So
it's close. But when I see your name, I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I didn't stray very far.
Awesome. Lawyers Who Learn is about, since you know what I do, Lawline is the largest provider in continuing legal education. And to me, this is a conversation. It's us catching up on air. A lot of people went to law school with somebody. They may have not talked to them for 20 years. And they're like, you know what? I would love to catch up with that person. We're going to do it on the air and see if it inspires or encourages other people to do it. And hopefully we'll share some tidbits from both my experiences and yours on ways outside of CLE, which is 98% of the learning, that you've grown in your career. And maybe some things that I've done. I didn't practice law, but I've grown in other ways. So where do we start? First off, we can just start with the beautiful background you have. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. It's not terrible out today. Where are you?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
How long have you lived there?
We actually did like a spontaneous move during COVID. So I've been here for about 3.5 years, which is wild because I feel like I still just moved here. But yeah, I've been here for about 3.5 years.
And before that, you were in
New York. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Obviously, and let me just say the reason I wanted to connect is I feel like we have, just through our different LinkedIn posts, there's just so much core values or values, I should say, that we have in common over the years. And I feel like I've followed you along your journey to some degree, and I know you've seen some of mine. So it's cool. So you're at Baker Hostetler, and you've been there for 11.5 years. And I saw your title was Counsel. And I had to be honest, I had to go to ChatGPT. And I'm like, what does it mean to be counsel at a firm? And tell me if this is correct. There's associate, there's partner, and then counsel's in the middle. And the counsel is either somebody who didn't want to pursue being partner or for whatever different reasons. And so that's higher than associate, but not partner. So maybe let's start with telling us a little bit about that story around that and your growth path. And what does that mean for us non-big law attorneys out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think that counsel might mean something a little bit different places, but in general, I think exactly what you said is spot on. So I'm one of these people that I went to law school. I wanted to practice law. That was not something I was really questioning, but I also didn't necessarily want to go on this like hardcore partner track. Not because I was lazy, not because I don't like what I do, but I also from a very young age was very clear that I wanted a very good like work-life balance, and having a family was very important to me. And I just never thought it wasn't a big priority for me. Let's put it that way. A few years into being at Baker Hostetler, I had indicated to my boss that I wanted to further my career, but I didn't really think that the partnership track was necessarily the right thing for me. But I felt like stagnant. Like I felt like I wanted to do something. And also, in advice and counsel work, which is what I do, I'm constantly talking to clients. So I felt like even from a credibility standpoint, at a certain point, like being an associate might not cut it for forever. Yeah. So she basically said, there's two tracks. There's counsel, there's partnership. You can choose to go to counsel, and then that doesn't mean you can never go to partnership if you change your mind, or there's partnership. So I had chosen at the time to go the counsel route, and to be determined if I ever change my mind about that. But at this point, I've been in this role for a few years and I've been very happy.
Thank you for sharing that. And I've learned just in that moment. And that's a really interesting thing for you to know about yourself. You said all the way back at law school, correct? Is that?
Yeah.
Because I looked in earlier in your career, you worked at Epstein Becker, you worked at Greenwald and what is it? Greenwald and Doherty, Joel Greenwald's place. Those Epstein Becker's small, right? Or smallish or no? It's large.
Epstein Becker's a prominent law
Big firm. Okay, yeah.
Specifically, they do a lot of employment work and a lot of healthcare. So those are like the two biggest. That's where I really started my employment law journey.
Was that your first job from law school? No.
So the first firm I was at was a firm called Robertson, Freilich, Bruno, and Cohen. They were a mid-sized commercial litigation firm. I worked there for about 3 years, and then they actually dissolved. But it was the biggest blessing, and I loved working there. I loved the people that I worked with. Admittedly, I wasn't convinced that commercial lit was the right path for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't driven by it. I wasn't passionate by what I was doing. And towards the end of my time in that firm, I had taken a personal development course and started inquiring internally about what I wanted next. And I remembered loving an employment law class in law school. And I decided in that class that was going to be my next step. And then shortly thereafter, weeks later, I think, the firm announced that they were dissolving. The first firm.
I don't pay attention to firms that dissolve that much, but it doesn't seem like a common thing.
It's not. It definitely is not. And given that it was the first place I had ever worked as a lawyer, like that was a very scary proposition. But it actually forced me to pursue what I really wanted to do. Yeah. And then I started practicing employment law with my next firm, which was Epstein Becker Green.
First of all, we graduated in 2006. We both went to New York Law School. Shout out to New York Law School. Coincidentally, you're the third New York Law School person I've interviewed in the past couple months. That has been really good. And the one other person I'm interviewing from our class is Matt Sadovsky, because
I had a feeling you were going to say his name.
He was just the best learner, out of
his
all of us.
His story is amazing.
And so I'm just he's somebody I really haven't seen anything about in 20 years, except that he's at a big firm. So I'm like, great, that I'll be really interested in. And I'm loving this so far. Like I said before we started interviewing, I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating about that is how luck or bad luck or whatever it is can change the direction of your career. And if they didn't dissolve, you might be in commercial litigation still.
Yeah, truly. I was a very young lawyer at the time. I don't know that I necessarily would have had the courage to leave a place where I was happy to try something totally different and try the unknown. But this really pushed me to do it. So
you mentioned a self-help course. What do you remember what that was, or can you share?
I had taken a bunch of courses with Landmark Education. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Of course.
Yeah, it was the wisdom course in that platform. And
just for those who don't know Landmark, can you describe it a little bit?
Sure. I honestly haven't been.
It was in person?
Any of their course. What's that?
It was in person you took it?
It was in person, yeah.
Okay.
It was like way before COVID times. It was in probably 2007 or 8. Okay. Yeah. And
let's pause for a second. What inspired? Because that's like Landmark, like sometimes there's a stigma, right? Oh, I'm going to go to a self-help course in person. And do I really need that? And this is before it dissolved, correct?
Yes, this was before the firm dissolved.
How did you even get introduced to that? What was that story?
So my husband, who was my fiancé at the time.
What's his name?
Ilan Ferdman.
Okay. Shout out Ilan if you're watching this.
So he was actually very involved in Landmark. He took a bunch of their courses. He was actually one of their coaches at the time that I had met him. And we decided to do the class together. So we did it with our best friends. So the 4 of us did that course together. It was like a 10-month program. And
so it's a course, not like
it was a course. It wasn't like a weekend thing. I had done some of the weekend stuff before that, but this was, it was amazing. And it was one of these things where it's funny, there's like an old school mentality. Like I remember my mom, when I was telling her about these courses that I was taking, she's like, what's wrong? Your life is great. There's nothing wrong. And it wasn't about it being anything wrong. There was nothing I was trying to fix. It was just like, I just wanted to try something new and work on myself. So, yeah.
You know what that's about? The book Mindset?
Of course.
So it's the growth mindset versus fixed
Absolutely.
mindset. Like older generations were definitely fixed mindset. And we're like, no, 100%. We want to grow. Okay. And remind me what's the name of the course again?
The one that I took at that time was
Wisdom course. Okay. Fantastic. Wisdom course. And Ilan was a coach there. What was he coaching on?
He was coaching in the Introduction Leader program at the time. And then he was like, it would be really fun to do something together. So that's what prompted that.
But just out of curiosity, what was his background that he's coaching leadership?
So he started his own personal development journey when he was probably either still in college or right out of college. And through Landmark, they actually offer this program where they train people to become coaches.
Got it.
So he took that course, and then he started coaching on his own. And actually, that's what he does for a living now. He totally left his corporate world and is a professional coach for life now.
Wow. Living the dream. There you go. So,
I know. Okay. I want to be Ilan when I grow up.
So totally, right? Okay. So you took a 10-month course, and did the firm dissolve during the course, or it was sometime after?
Yeah, it was during.
So sometimes you wonder, right? Who's moving things around a little
100%.
bit, right? Like you must have had like tingles when you were like, how am I in this course right now? Now I can use this course to figure out what I want to do.
Totally. And again, it was before they had even announced it. And I had literally said that was one of the inquiries that I went inward during that course, where I was like, all right, I'm not sure how fulfilled I'm feeling doing commercial lit. Like, what else can there be for me? And I had declared to myself what it was that I wanted to pursue. And then weeks later, the firm had made that announcement. So it was really wild.
There's so many books that describe this. There's Think and Grow Rich. There's The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
And it's every book, essentially that's a self-help book. Essentially, if you put something in writing and you think and believe and you act if it's happening, the world will align to bring it to you. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen in my life. And there is a scientific component to that to some degree. And it's in a book that I'm forgetting the name this second, and I'll get it if it comes in my head at the end, where it talks about we can only really process 7 to 10 bits of information per second, but there's, I don't know, 10 million bits of information around us at any given time. And so so I'll give you an example right now. Let's just try to do it together. It's hard in that room, but we're going to try. Can you do me a favor, if it's possible? Look around, turn around in a second and look around your room. Okay. And find everything. So this is tough because this is a very clean looking room, but everything that's blue. Okay. Just find all the blue. Okay.
Okay.
Again, this is probably not going to work because you probably know this room well, but can you tell me everything in that room that is yellow?
Ooh.
And not from memory, just
right. That's tough because this is my workspace. Yeah. I'm here every single day.
Fair enough. And so the point of that is, and that's a famous experiment. I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It's a award-winning video with a basketball and a gorilla.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so it's a famous video. I'll put it in the description, but it's essentially, if you focus on everything that's blue, you're not going to see what's yellow. So if you're focusing on being a commercial litigator and you're just stuck there, that's what you're going to do. But if you're focusing on a new part to your career, changing your life and re-energizing what you learned in law school, that's somehow going to lead you to that direction. So it took me much longer to get that out. It's 3:00. If this was at 9 a.m., it would have been easier, but that's my excuse. All right. So then you just apply for jobs at employment law firms, and that's how you got to Epstein Becker, or was it more fortuitous?
No. So the partners at the firm where I was were beyond kind and generous. And obviously they felt horrible about what was happening. So they actually put in a good word for me at Epstein Becker. They had a connect there. They knew somebody there. I went in for an interview. I ended up getting it, but it was really like, they really helped me. So yeah.
So they connected you. Okay.
They connected me initially. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. All right. So did it meet your dream focus of what you thought? Obviously you're still in it, but what were your expectations when you joined? How long were you there? Give us a sense of, okay, you figured out your new path. You're now at a law firm doing employment law. What's the reality? What did you learn there?
I actually really liked it. There was definitely a learning curve because I had done very minimal employment work at my first firm. So really, I remember I had 2 weeks between the two jobs. And I remember buying like all these books, like 101 employment law, and I was trying to read up on everything. And there was a learning curve, but that was like, I wasn't surprised about that at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, general commercial lit, you dabble in a little bit of everything. So even when I was practicing at my first firm, it was a lot of learning as you go. So I was just doing more of that. I was surrounded by really great people, very smart people who took me under their wing. And I actually really enjoyed it.
And how long were you there?
I was there for, I think, only 2 years.
Okay.
Two
And that,
or three, yeah.
I'm sorry, because now it's feeling like a job interview, right? So tell me why you left. But it is so interesting to understand those parts, because like how you learn and grow in your career, sometimes it's like when you realize it's time to leave or just something's not the right fit. And I think a lot of young attorneys, and every attorney is really interested in understanding how that happened to you, especially since you're still in this career path. So if you don't mind sharing, like what that transition, and then you went when you were at Joel Greenwald's place. Tell us just your two transitions to Baker Hostetler, just so we can get a sense of like your career growth.
Absolutely. So I loved Epstein Becker, but I had gotten pregnant. And then I went out on maternity leave. I had every intention of coming back. I had a recruiter reach out to me while I was on maternity leave, and it was for Greenwald Doherty, which was 15 minutes away from my house. Whereas at Epstein Becker, I was commuting an hour in each direction at minimum.
Got it.
And so I had to like really sit down and think about it. I was still on maternity leave. And I was like, do I really want to go back to a job where I'm driving at least 2 hours a day when I could be spending those 2 hours a day with my baby? And I went in for the interview. I really liked Joel and Kevin, and I decided to make the move. It was a totally different vibe. It's a small boutique employment law firm, which I know you know Joel, so I'm sure you know that. But there were only like a handful of lawyers that worked there. But it was amazing because it made me get like the best hands-on experience. I just got thrown in there. And because it was a very small firm, which is not what Epstein Becker was, I really did. I got a lot of hand-holding and training and watching how the partners there do things. And a lot of the things I still incorporate in my day-to-day practice so many years later. But that's how I ended up there.
Great. And then now you're at Baker. So what's that transition?
And now I'm at Baker. So there were a lot of different reasons. So
yeah, and you don't have to get into the specific.
No, I won't. But at the end of the day, what it came down to truly was there were two things. One is Baker's just an amazing firm. And I ended up reconnecting with somebody that a mentor for many years who worked at Epstein Becker, who ended up at Baker. And we had reconnected. She was telling me how much she loved it. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And then she was asking me how I like where I am. I said, I really do love it, but I actually would love to go part-time. And I don't think that there's an opportunity to do that here. And she was like, she called me a few days later. She was like, so something you said stuck with me. And I think that there could be an opportunity here for part-time for you. Would you be interested? So I ended up going into the city, did the interview. And then, so again,
So interesting. So my wife, so we've been married for 20 years. We met in GW, known each other 27 years. How long have you guys been married? You and Ilan?
We've been married for 16 years.
16. Okay. Awesome.
Oh, it'll be 17 in November.
And do you have 3 kids as well? Is that correct? 2. Okay. And so my kids are 16. I have 16-year-old twins and an 11-year-old. Yours are younger though, right?
Mine's 13 and 12. So
okay,
you're
13, yeah. But there was like a hot second where like she ended up working at Lawline for a little bit, but then she got pregnant and with twins. But there was an opportunity where she was able to stay she was a social worker at Mount Sinai. And the reason she was able to stay there is because they offered her this part-time opportunity. And she was able to continue that for a longer period of time up until we moved to Barcelona. And it was really it was really transformational, but you don't hear that as often in the law firm space. So was that a unique thing at the time, or did you get in there and there's a lot of people in that position?
No, it was very unique. Actually, truth is the New York like the co-managing partner in New York at the time that I was hired actually also worked, but it's interesting. It's not something that's really spoken about. Now it's becoming a little bit more common, these like flexible work arrangements,
Yeah.
especially for people returning from different leaves of absence or whatever. But at the time it was not common at all. And they definitely took a risk allowing me to do it. And I'm forever grateful. I'm still part-time to this day.
That is unbelievable. And I was going to ask you if you're still to this. And that's really, again, going back to what you knew so deeply in law school, is you didn't want to do the 100-hour, whatever it was, the 100-hour work weeks, the attract a partner. You wanted to have a work-life balance. You're in Boca, so you figured something out, and you took this course that sort of helped you there. Have you taken any other courses since, or anything formal in self-help or self-improvement?
I definitely have. I'm drawing a blank on what, to be very honest.
That's fair.
Yeah, my husband's so in the world that like I'm constantly doing that kind of stuff, but it's probably been a minute since I've done something super formal, like a structured program where I'm going in. I do some virtual stuff from time to time, but I don't think I've taken like a course, especially one that's spanned over several months the way that I did back then.
What about books? Do you have time to read books? Do you do nonfiction books? And if so, I'm always interested, even if you have like your phone near you and you look in your Kindle app or your Audible, it's always great to hear what books somebody has read and recently read or not. And maybe it's not on your bandwidth.
I feel like my husband and I always have this conversation. I honestly feel like I read so much during the day that lately, the last couple of years, when I really want to read and unplug, it's like stupid fiction stuff.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
need something super light that can just make my brain go elsewhere. I have a bunch of nonfiction stuff on my Kindle. I have stuff that my husband keeps recommending to me, and then I just start it and I fall asleep. So yeah, I don't have anything, unfortunately, that I can recommend that I've read recently that I like really love.
It's interesting because one of the reasons and I recently got into it moved to Barcelona. I wrote a book in 2019. I moved to Barcelona. Yeah, I moved to Barcelona, and then COVID happened. Then I came back here, and then we were talking about my mom passed away, and something since then I've decided there's just like this rekindle of, and the reason being, it's, if you look at, for me, it's the age old thing, where you want to be and where you are. And when you feel like the delta is farther than us apart, you need to figure out how to get there. And what's crazy is, ready for this?
Please bring it on.
Next year, 20 years since you graduated law school.
I know. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know, but that's when you realize, you're like, oh, okay. If 20 years, like first of all, it feels like a long time, but then also you remember it so clearly. And now that I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. And now that I'm starting to recognize that and things, and you see how, and then life is finite, I'm like, okay, I was very clear on where I wanted to be here. Like it's so funny. Like I wanted to be in lifelong learning to some degree. I wanted to have a townhouse. I wanted to travel a lot. I wanted to put my kids in the same school I had. Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to control my time. I am not 100% sure, because I feel like I hit a lot of those things, what I want to do in where I want to be in 20 years from today. And I'm working through that, and I'm using self-help books to get there. So 20 years may be too far, but like when you think about yourself, do you even have those conversations, or are you like in Zen, like I'm good next 20 years, like this is where I would want to be?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. So I feel like every year during my birthday, the last few, like since I turned 40, every year I think to myself, okay, so what do I want to create for this year? Or what do I, what? And I have a really hard time. Like, I don't have clarity on that. I feel like I've done a lot of the things, like I've achieved a lot of the things I've wanted to achieve. And part of me is, let me just ride that and enjoy where I am in life. And part of me is, but what's next? But what's next? So I don't know. I don't know what's next for me for now. I'm just hoping to continue more of the same. And then hopefully I'll just have a moment of an epiphany where it's very clear to me what I want next.
I started laughing because I'm like, I probably just sound like Ilan right now. Like, I'm like asking you these like life questions, but
No, they're good questions though.
what kind of coach is he for who?
He has personal clients, so he does a lot of group coaching, but he also does personal. So he started off doing like home-based entrepreneurs. Actually, like you would have been probably his perfect client when he first started out.
Yeah.
And he still does that, but that's not his only niche. Whoever wants to talk to him, whoever needs to talk to him, whoever needs support. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Baker Hostetler's, I don't know what number. Do you know what number ranking it is? In fourth largest.
No.
What was that for?
I thought you were asking what number in my law firm.
Oh, no. But it's obviously an AmLaw 100, maybe a top 20 firm, top 10 firm, something.
I'm embarrassed.
It's big. No, it's all right. It doesn't matter. It's big. What is and now you're fully remote, or do you go to office there at all?
I relocated at a time where we didn't know we were fully on lockdown and there was no office to go to. So I did fully relocate. I'm 100% remote. I try to go in whenever I can, whenever I need to. Certainly I go in, but yeah, I'm otherwise 100% remote right now.
I saw in your bio, you're the co-leader of a practice group, the employment practice. Is it employment law group, or is there something specific?
The wage and hour team within the employment group. Yeah.
So I'm learning. So I've been interviewing in my past interviews, some big law attorneys, and I'm learning like the difference between teams and industry practice groups. Tell me a little bit about how that worked, how you ended up in that position. It's super cool that you're doing that. And I would love to understand how you grew to that position.
Yeah. So basically there's the labor and employment group, and then under the current national employment law leader, like nationally in Baker Hostetler, one of the things that she really wanted to focus on, which we had done before, but she really wanted to expand on that, was the concept of teams and like expertise that each individual labor and employment leader, like where their strengths are, what they tend to do the most. And I had done a lot of wage and hour advice and counsel work. So I'm the co-lead of the wage and hour compliance team. We also have a wage and hour litigation. So I do basically the compliance side. And I've done a lot of that since probably 2010. I started dabbling in it. And then it ended up that a lot of people would come to me with questions throughout the different offices. We have 15, 18 offices now. I don't even remember because we keep expanding, but I'd have a lot of people. And then there was somebody who was the leader beforehand and he had retired. And my boss was like, do you want to take this on with Sharif Farag, who's out in our LA office? And I said, yeah. And so I've been doing that for the last few years and it's been great.
And is this is this a team that has other industry groups on there, or this is just employment?
It's just employment. Okay. However, the way that it really works is we work on a lot of we work with a lot of clients that are based in other practice team areas, but like everybody has a client that's an employer. But the wage and hour stuff is specific to employment law issues, like how employees are getting paid. Are we paying them properly? Are we paying them in accordance with the law? So that's really
for sure
the summary of what that's about. Yeah.
And are you also part of teams, like a team where it's, for example, I was talking to somebody who leads the AI team. There's 120 people on the AI team, but it's all different practice because there's so many different areas of law that AI touches. And so that team works on like many different people on different practice groups work on that team together. And I was like, is that more of a marketing thing? Is it's a little bit marketing, but it also helps get who you need when there's an issue?
Yeah. So for example, I'm on the employee deal team or employment deal team. Okay. So when companies are merging, getting acquired, there's due diligence that happens. And then there's a number of different industries that are affected that need to review it. I'm on the team that gets called in on the employment side in the context of a merger and acquisition. Yeah. And then there's other teams. There's like retail teams specific to certain industries, healthcare teams, which again, it's a number of different practice areas.
Cool. I'm like, there's 6 different ways I can go, but I'm just going to ask you. And then when you think about 6 different ways you go, you're like, forgot what I was going to say in the first place. Let me ask you this. now that we went through your bio and I feel like I've given you the third degree and I feel like I've learned a lot, there's two questions I have for you. Let me write the other one down so I don't forget it. Is there anything that in conversations with people talking about your career or questions like this in general that people have never asked you, but you wish they asked you so you can talk about it more, about some sort of part of your journey or your growth journey or how you've learned? You were pretty open. You shared some pretty cool things today, but I've been asking that lately, and sometimes it leads to a whole different tree path and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay too. But I just thought I would throw it out there. All right, think about it. I'll go to the next question.
Okay. Okay.
If it pops in your head, let me know.
Okay.
Here's a more boring question, but more relevant to me. Do you recall are you actively taking CLE courses? And can you think about anything in the past year that a CLE course has really been impactful for you substantively? And if the answer is no, that's okay too. Would love to see how people are learning CLE wise.
Yeah, I do. I actually take a lot of CLE courses. As a matter of fact, I happen to be a little bit low on work today. Right before I hopped on with you, I was taking a CLE. I do a lot. And it's funny, I feel like when I was very early in my career, I really didn't like them. Like, I did them because they were mandatory. I also think the requirements were a little bit different back then in terms of required subjects and time commitments and what was offered and remote versus in person. So it's so accessible now that as I've developed in my career and honed in on a particular area that I'm really interested in, I actually really seek them out. Like I said, if I'm ever low on work, that's what I end up doing. So I take CLEs that help me grow in my particular practice area. I will say I mostly take them in employment law topics. I try to take them on issues that I regularly advise clients on, because it's always good to hear other people's perspectives. So right before I hopped on, I was taking a CLE on reasonable accommodations in the workplace, because I do a lot of that kind of advice. And it's good to hear, like, there's something that somebody said, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never really thought to explain it that way. It's super helpful for that. And then also for areas that still somewhat within like the realm of what I do, but that I don't necessarily feel as confident about. And maybe I just want to understand better or know that I don't know certain things so that I can punt them to the experts when it comes up. Or, that's an issue. That's a real thing. I shouldn't take it so lightly. So I think CLEs are a great resource for all of that.
Yeah, no, look, especially one of the things that we did, because one, there's the mandatory component, but we've added some features to help for just-in-time learning. So as CLEs probably, or with PLI, I assume, but with CLEs, you can't fast forward until you've watched a component, and you can't actually get to that part in the video because you can't get an answer to a question. So there's two things that we did. We gave the ability to disable that. So if you want to, because we actually allow you to see all the slides as they come up on the side, and you can read through it. And we also have a transcript that you can follow, and you can see. And if you see something really interesting, you can click on that part of the transcript, and it gives you an option: disable the tracking so you can get right to this, or don't. So that's one. The second thing we did was we integrated an AI learning assistant that takes only the 2,000 courses that we have. Or let's say you're watching a course, you can ask questions just to the transcript of that course to help you get further idea. And those are two things that, because like I said, my passion's lifelong learning. I've always been trying to figure out how to get it past that, the talking head, essentially. Do you use anything in your life for just-in-time learning? Because CLEs maybe are not the best for that. Do you do research? Do you practical law? I think, is that, they do more just-in-time learning. There's also Hot Shots. I don't know if you guys subscribe to them.
No, I think the Baker subscribes to PLI. So that's where I end up doing most of my stuff. But I know when I was at Greenwald Doherty, we did Lawline.
Smart firm. Smart. We actually had another number of, so we work with a lot of big law. And so Baker's on the list, and hopefully one of the ways that we've gone into many firms is we've started as a addition to PLI, because we have different tools, different technology, and it's been really helpful. And we've worked with many firms, and we're with the largest firm, Kirkland & Ellis, we're with Cooley, we're with a lot of firms like that. But it is from a standpoint, when you've been with PLI, they've been around 100 years, they're obviously a great organization. It's what do you provide different or unique that's worth in us spending more money or replacing them. And that's the conversations that we love having, because all we do is online education. Anyways, that's I don't know why I'm trying to sell us right now.
No, but maybe I can connect you with someone at Baker, because listen, why not?
So have you ever taught it? I would love that. Why not? Because the hardest thing to do.
What
we talk about, the hardest thing, and I'm not saying this moment, and maybe I don't know if you do biz dev, you get your own book of clients, is just to ask for the business.
I know. I have a really hard time with that, to be honest.
Because then it's, oh, wait, was this whole conversation just to ask for business? And you're like, oh, I'm never talking to that person again. So let's ask, is that something on your, because I know you didn't go to the partner room, but you also, what is it? Have your own book of business?
I do. It's not enormous, quite frankly. I have it. I have a ton of my own clients. They don't tend to be like the largest clients that are the money makers for the firm. And it's something I struggle with for exactly the same reason that you just said. Yeah. I have a lot of connections in a lot of different industries. I have a lot of friends that either own their own businesses or in the HR world or in the C-suite exec level. And I have a hard time I feel like it's like a pitch. And I feel like it's inauthentic when I'm talking to them. It just comes up in conversation. So I avoid it. Yeah. But then if it comes up naturally, like I've actually gotten some clients just by talking about what I do, but not actually saying, oh, we can help you.
It's interesting because one of the reasons, and not the only reasons, but one of the reasons attorneys teach CLEs, because it's a perfect, authentic way to share your expertise and your knowledge. And a lot of the clients you get are referrals from other attorneys. Have you ever taught a CLE course?
I've done a bunch of trainings. I'm trying to remember. I think I did one that was actually CLE a while ago. I get requests very regularly, like maybe once a month. And typically my firm says to turn it down. I think because it's not to professionals that would be hiring us, but rather to other lawyers. So it's not like the best way to spend time in terms of prepping for it and whatever. But
no, it is interesting. No, it is interesting. I'm curious because there's a couple components to that. There's one is, let's just say that's true for a moment.
Right.
The other side of that is you're creating a course that is, assuming it's a reputable company and you're proud to have a course with that company and you've put time and energy into it. The first part is best form of teaching is the best form of learning. Yeah. So by creating a course, it's going to help you create content for other things. And that just is the accountability to do it. The second thing is now you have a reputable company with your name and the description and the course is there. And most companies like us will allow you to send that out to your network to your potential clients or your clients to show them for free, especially if they're lawyers and get credit. And the third is, if for us, we're maybe bigger than most. So we're the largest online CLE provider out there, maybe besides PLI, depending on the numbers and the year, because they do a lot of in-person. But we've had over 10 million courses completed on our site. Yeah, it's been hot.
That's amazing.
It's been 25 years since it was originally started and 17 years since I restarted it. And yeah, so it's a lot. And the thing I would say to your firm is there's a lot of general counsels need CLE, corporate counsels need CLE. And just because somebody is a different lawyer, they might have people, if somebody knows somebody's a lawyer, many times, can you recommend somebody? And so that's how you do it. So not necessarily with Lawline, but that would be my push to you or do it with Lawline. I'll pitch you. I'll ask for that. Look, to be honest, we have a wait list of attorneys who want to teach real because it costs us time, energy, and money to produce and create courses and get it accredited. But I would love to have you as a faculty member of Lawline because I'm sure I know you have great content and it would lead to good things for you because what you focus on grows. Did an on-air pitch of a podcast. I've never done that. You're the first one I did, but it would be fun. More so it'd be fun. I'll pitch Matt Sadowski too. Cool. I think we cover a lot. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are more fun. And then I'll let you ask the last question to me since I put you on the hot spot. Ask me the hardest question you want, or don't ask me anything. It's okay, but make me squirm a little bit. Let's see. I have a list of questions here that I think are fun. Let's see. maybe this is a hard question, but when in your life did you realize you were capable of more than you thought?
I think maybe during COVID, actually. It was probably one of the biggest times of growth in my career, also, when much of the world was not really working or was low on work. People were like hanging out with their families and those that obviously were in safe spaces and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like employment lawyers and HR professionals were going crazy trying to learn new laws that were coming out what truly felt like daily at the time. So I was learning new laws, advising employers on what they should and should not be doing with their employees. It was just, it felt like the craziest time, but I think it made me stronger. It made me better. It made me a more confident lawyer.
No,
So I think that's probably the first thing that comes to mind.
no, that makes a lot of sense because I know we put a lot of free content out at that time. There's so many changes from an employment standpoint of view that you're probably putting out fires and just helping people at that time.
Totally.
So, all right, I'll give you two more, and then let's see. Okay, what? And try not to give like the cliche answer if possible. If you don't have an answer right away, we'll move on to the next question.
Okay.
What impact do you want to be remembered for in 10 years?
Ooh, oh, professionally
All right.
or like in life?
I would say in life, but because here's the two answers that I think I'm going to get from anybody. My kids, I taught them how to be good, and professionally, I help my clients. So as long as it's not one of those two, if not, we can go to the next one. These are tough. I don't have an answer for myself. So I'm putting you on the spot. I don't have an answer.
Okay, I don't think this is like the biggest thing that I want to be known for. I don't think this is like my legacy, but I think that my story for lawyers and people in the professional world may be to help them get that they can get what they want, like whether it's from a work-life balance, whether it's ask and you shall receive in terms of part-time. I also went from litigating to advice and counsel work because I put out that I really wanted to focus on that. Me going from commercial lit to employment law, I put out that that's what I wanted to do. So I feel don't be afraid to ask for what you want, not only to the universe, but also to like the people that get to make those decisions, like your boss. Hey, I feel like this is really what I want. So I feel like from an impact perspective, if I can leave that from a professional standpoint, not so much personal, but it goes into both because it's, again, work-life balance. So yeah.
I love that. And I would say to both of us, let's also remember that to potential clients, because if we believe everybody has challenges, especially in employment law, but if you believe you can help them or you want them to know about it, yeah, there's a level of not asking for business, but just, it's just figuring that out.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks.
And then let's do the last one. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Again, these are tough. What's an unconventional idea you believed in before others did? I don't know. All right. Think about it, and I'll give you another one. All right, I'll give you an easier one. You can end in a cliche tone. Okay. What advice would your 80-year-old self give you today? It's like your 80-year-old self was, so not when you're 80, but today, what would your 80-year-old self be telling you right now if you can look at her to your right?
Yeah. Stress less, play more. Kind of cliche, but
she would probably say, stay in Boca. Thank you. I didn't have to, you saved me. I didn't have to do it when I was like in my 70s. So I appreciate that. Awesome. I'm like, as I promised, I'm giving you the last question. Is there anything you can make me squirm about that, or a big question that you can ask me that I can be stumped on? So I feel like I'm challenged there.
I actually have two questions for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how difficult they are, but I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, did you always know that you didn't want to practice law, or was that a decision that you had made like in law school or once you graduated law school?
No. So I didn't go, of course I went to law school to be an attorney. So just to remind you, which maybe you don't know, is before law school, I didn't go straight from college. I worked for 5 years, and I was in 3 different sales jobs, or maybe 4. And I would keep changing. I would make more money. But like when I would talk to people who were at my company and they were 20 years ahead of me, that was their 14th sales job. And I
Wow.
always thought I would be an entrepreneur. That's all I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. And my dad was an attorney, personal injury attorney. And so all he ever wanted me to do is be an attorney. So of course it was the last thing I wanted to do, especially personal injury. But then I had this moment in 2003. Oh, actually, I became a real estate broker. After 9/11, I quit my sales job. I became a real estate broker, and I really enjoyed studying for the licensing exam. And then I was just like, you know what? I'd rather be a lawyer for 20 years and have a career than just go to sales job. So that's when I did it. When things shifted was my second year in law school. It was my internship at this law firm. And essentially, I told him I wasn't going to stay on after the summer. He berated me. He kicked me out on the spot. It was a really uncomfortable situation. And there was just a moment where I was like, damn, I never want to be treated like that again. So that was that. And I'd started a public access TV show interviewing entrepreneurs to try to figure that out. Long story short, it occurred to me, my dad had started Lawline in 1999. He stopped it in 2001, but kept the website up. I was like, what if I start interviewing lawyers and turn those into courses and say we're Lawline and we've been around since 1999. That's what I did my third year of law school. I don't know if you knew this, my third year of law school, I set up my classes so I went to school twice a week. I hired an intern from a high school near us. And the other 3 days a week, I just worked on building Lawline. Yeah, no, I guess why would you? Yeah. So that's what I did. And then I graduated, I take the bar, so I passed. And I put everything, used credit cards. And the first month or two was a deadline for Virginia. We got $10,000 and it was just me and one other person. I was like, maybe it's going to work. And so that was the story.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then that actually leads to my second question, which is you are like, again, like I follow you on LinkedIn. I love what you do. I feel like you're always full of ideas, but you also act on them, and it's really admirable. But I'm curious how you get whether it's inspiration, ideas, like how do you know what's coming, what you want to do as an entrepreneur? I'm so not an entrepreneur at heart that it's like.
They don't. So it's funny. You go, it's such a great question because I'm going to get up and show you something. There's literally a book that's probably blurred out, but it's called Become an Idea Machine because ideas are the currency of the 21st century. And what this book is, it gives you a list of 10 things. There's 100 different pages, and it says you need to come up with 10 ideas for each one of these things. And it's really, you can come up with 3, come up with 4, maybe 5. 10 is really hard. So in order to really think of ideas, it's like working out. You need to do things and put it stuff. So when I'm not having interviews, when I'm not reading books, when I'm not giving time to myself, it's really hard to have ideas. So for me, and I also, for example, on LinkedIn, I almost post every single weekday because my focus is not to break the chain of posts. And so I don't overthink that. So I need to have so I force procrastination where I have to wait till the last minute. I'm like, okay, what should I write about today? And so that's where ideas come from. But I can tell you, I've been in idea droughts, especially because I'm trying to write I've been working on a second book for 5 years and it's really hard. So my advice is, this book is written by James Altucher, who is there's another book, The Power of No. And is a co-author of that. It's called Become an Idea Machine. Buy the physical book, don't buy the Kindle. And you're not going to get through it because I'm telling you to do it now. I've only gotten halfway through it but the ideas start popping out of you when you get to number 7, 8, 9, and 10, and you just want to start doing them. And of course, ideas are worth the paper they're written on because the execution is hard. You are saved by the bell because I have a meeting in 2 minutes and you probably have something too. But this has been phenomenal. I was really nervous before we got on because I'm like, I didn't have time to do research and I saw your bio. I'm like, I don't know. She's going to think, who is this guy? What? He just came to interview me about nothing.
No way, this is awesome.
apparently you could talk about nothing and it leads to something. Maybe not this time around because I'm there a short time, but next time I'm in town for longer.
Yeah,
Love
definitely.
to connect. And I definitely want to meet Ilan. It sounds like we have a lot in common. So
Yeah, you guys
I
would.
hope he watches this.
You will.
All right. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. It was great
Bye,
catching
Fanny.
up.
All
Take
right,
care.
bye-bye.
Bye.